Hey everybody. So when you think about the upcoming holiday season, are you thrilled about all the food that you're going to eat, all the yummy things? Or do you think, I have to follow this restricted diet and I am never going to be happy eating these foods through the holidays? Well, if you're the second one, I have good news because I know how you can get to that first place. Hi, everybody. I'm Ricki Heller from rickiheller.com, and I help people on restricted diets learn to love their food again so their bodies can heal, they can lose their symptoms, and they can find chronically good health where they get their lives back and they can be happy about food again. So when I was younger, I went away to university. I left my home. I had grown up in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, which was a big city, like 2 or 3 million at the time. And I moved to a place called Windsor, Ontario, which is like this far from Detroit. And it was small. It was like 100,000 or maybe 100 and something. And I remember when I first moved there thinking, oh my God, how am I going to live in this place? It was just not that it was a bad place, but it was so different. I felt so unfamiliar, and it just, as a young person, I think I was like 18 or 19, so unhappy about where I was. I remember my parents drove off after they dropped me off, and I just cried all day. And I went looking in the city for where am I going to do my grocery shopping? Where am I going to buy my clothes? And I realized there was only one grocery store, basically one clothing store. Like it was one of everything in Windsor, one university where I did my studies. And I was devastated. I just thought there is no way I'm ever going to be happy here. But guess what? I stayed there for 4 years. And by the end, and I can say this looking back, those were 4 of the happiest years of my life. I loved being there, and I was definitely so happy by the time I left. And in fact, I never went back to Montreal. I stayed in Ontario, and now I live north of Toronto. So if you saw my post earlier in the week, I was talking about Dan Gilbert, who did some studies on happiness. And what he said was, one of the studies he cited was they looked at people who had had sudden, unforeseen, devastating accidents where they had gone one day from being perfectly healthy to the next day paraplegic. And then they also looked at people who had maybe come from financial difficulty. They won the lottery, and the next day they had $340 million. And of course, you would think the paraplegic person is going to be much less happy than the person with $340 million. And you'd be right when it happened. But they went back a year later and they looked at those same 2 groups. And what they found was the level of happiness almost identical a year later. They were both groups said they were relatively happy. And what's interesting about that is the way our brains are built for us to adapt, right? So that's why we learn, we adapt, and we always strive, your brain strives for equilibrium so that you have a pretty equal level of happiness. And the same happens with your food. So if you have to start a new diet and you have to cut out ingredients and you have to cut out foods that you love, as I did 20 years ago, yes, there's going to be a period of adjustment where you might feel like this is difficult, but ultimately you can learn to love those foods and you will be happy with them again. And the difference is for people today and for people that I work with and what I went through, the difference is when you have an accident or when you win the lottery or when I moved to Windsor, you don't have the option of going back to the way things were before. I mean, I thought about going back to my parents' house, but of course I didn't really have that option. And someone who's been in a devastating accident doesn't have the option to go back to being able to walk again. So they are forced to go through that adjustment period. They have to, whether they want to or not. And as they go through over time, they do adjust and they regain their happiness. When it comes to your food, and for most of us, the choice is right there in front of us every day. There's nothing forcing us to go through and eat the foods that seem unusual, seem unfamiliar, the foods we think we don't like yet. So the tendency is to fall back to what we were eating before. But that's what I do with people, and that's how I work to avoid that entire period of hardship, because I can create foods that taste just as good and look just as good and in every way are actually better for you than the other ones. And so just as an example, we already celebrated Thanksgiving here in Canada. And maybe not this year because of COVID, but in previous years, I would invite friends over and we would have stuffing and we would have gravy and we would have green bean casserole and sweet potato casserole and Brussels sprouts and we would have pumpkin pie and chocolate pecan pie and cranberry sauce. All those things made to my specifications that I need on my anti-candida diet. But all my friends and my husband who have regular diets, who don't need to eat in any special way at all, would share those exact foods with me and love them and not even know that they were special. And what that does is, when I go back to the beginnings of this and I was able to create these recipes because of my background as a recipe developer, it allowed me to go through that period without the same struggle and hardship that I might have if I didn't know about the foods or I didn't know how to create foods that tasted just as good. Because when you have substitutes that are delicious, that really helps you over the hump of adjusting to that new way of eating. And you're able to learn how to use these ingredients and still love your food and be happy with what you're eating so that you can get to the point where you're totally adjusted and accustomed to eating this new way. And it really helps with that period of adjustment. So if you think you can't be happy eating this way, just know this, that you can. There are foods out there that are just as delicious, and there are ways to recreate all the things you love in a way that other people will be happy to share them with you. And that's going to get you over the hump. And ultimately, you absolutely will be happy eating this way at the holidays, at every time. And the beauty of that is the more you're able to stick with your healthy diet, the more your body starts to feel better and better and better. And what does that mean? Not only are you happy with your food, you're happy with so much more in your life in general because you can live the life that you want to live. Healthy, vibrant, full of movement, being able to share things and experiences with other people, all the things you're missing because you continue to eat those foods that are bad for your body and your health. So I hope that was helpful. If it was, please do give me a comment below. Let me know what you think. Tell me what you're struggling with and whether there are things that you think you'll be able to bring into your new diet, adjust to, and what you're having trouble with, and I'll see if I can help. I hope you will subscribe to my newsletter where I talk about this kind of thing all the time, and I share more information as well as recipes. It's at rickiheller.com/subscribe. So just rickiheller.com/the word subscribe, and you can just fill in the form there and you'll be on the list. You'll also be the first to know about anything that's upcoming. I'm planning a really fun workshop for the month of December, early in December, where we're going to talk about all of these things around the holidays and food. And I'm going to help you prepare for your holiday. So it's a breeze. All right, everybody, I hope you have a great day, and I will see you again next time.